While there weren't many things Palpatine was afraid of, there is one person he saw as a true threat towards his goal of galactic domination: Mother Talzin.
Now, don't get me wrong, this version of Palpatine under the control of the dimensionally inept, sycophantic Nimrod Rhodes Yearning, yes, he is definitely 100% scared of Talzin. But let's be fair here. She, Morgan Elsbeth, Old Daka, are literally peanuts in comparison to what hides within the depths of Dathomir. You see, there's a monster in those forests. And no, I don't mean the Rancors. And today, we're going to be talking about that monster, who doesn't get a lot of attention in Star Wars Legends, for this Halloween special.
It's Halloween!
Her name is Gethzerion, a name that so few might remember or have even heard. But when it comes to the Nightsisters and their eternal conflict with the witches of Dathomir, her name remains prominent. Because she wasn't just a Nightsister, not just a Force user from a backwater world where the dark side holds sway. Instead, every Nightsister that has ever existed, Talzin, Old Daka, Silri, even Ventress, owes their way of life to her. For Gethzerion was the first of them, the true Dark Queen of Dathomir.
Oh, you dirty work the shaft.
Excuse you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I like to dirty talk when someone's sucking my...
Now, let me make something clear here. Palpatine was said to be scared of Talzin. This could be very true, but he intentionally orchestrated the trap that made her vulnerable and then slew her personally in combat. That's a very stark contrast in comparison to what the hell he did with Gethzerion. Talzin was a mountain lion, while Gethzerion was a daggone megalodon. The Daughters of Alaya was the original name of the Witches of Dathomir, found by the wayward Jedi Knight Alaya, who turned to the dark side and was exiled by the Jedi Order to the planet Dathomir, which served as a penal colony for some of the Republic's worst criminals. There, she amended her ways and returned to the light, but would never step foot in the Jedi Temple again, instead taking what she learned to form essentially a new race of Force sensitives. From that legacy, Gethzerion was born. She was not a full-blooded human like her mother, but instead, she was a Dathomirian, a member of the hybrid species between humans and Zabrak. That's right. The idea existed long before George Lucas made Ventress into one of them, along with Savage Opress and even Maul. This blending made Gethzerion very talented when it came to channeling the power of the Force, being one of four sisters and the most talented of them all. As a result, she didn't need the structure of the ritualized chanting prescribed by her people's customs and traditions. Instead, like her mother, the respected Lyra Ogwen, and protector, Tanith of the Singing Mountain clan, she was capable of direct manipulation of the Force. We see on Dathomir, it appears more like magic rather than an energy field that can be manipulated, such as seen in other worlds, such as the Vampire Diaries in the originals. As a result, she was adored by her siblings, but feared by those who recognized that such power for one so young could only lead to temptation, and as a result there was talk and belief that if Gethzerion was to ever fall to the dark side, then she must be annihilated for the sake of them all. And soon they would be put to the test, as ambition and likely belief that she was more suited to the royal clan leader, or even a sense of betrayal for having the eldest sister exiled for falling to the dark side, led Gethzerion along with her other sister Beretha to attempt to assassinate their mother, an attempt that would fail, because of the sacrifice of their youngest sister, who had given her life to save their mother. And the two were captured before being exiled themselves. But this would not be the end of the story. While the Witches of Dathomir are an all-matriarchal society, enslaving men like the beast they rode, Rancors, they still followed the light side, despite their morally questionable choices. And while there was always outcasts, similar to the Dark Jedi in the early days of the Jedi Order, those outcasts roamed the forest without clan or hearth. But it was only due to Gethzerion and Beretha that they became something more. As the saying goes, as above, so below. The Jedi had made the Sith by not killing the Dark Jedi exiles, hoping that they would learn from their mistakes and turn back to the light side. The Nightsisters are the Witches of Dathomir's Sith, their eternal sin made manifest. As Gethzerion and Beretha were exiled, they began to gather the outcasts to form their own clan. This was never possible before. As with the Sith, there must be a singular strong leader to anchor them together, at least at first, to push their power beyond and offer them something greater than what they've already had. Soon, this new clan embraced the dark side with much more gusto than ever before, their faces faces and skin marked with the bursting of blood vessels due to its use. They studied and created forbidden night spells, expanded their numbers to resemble that of more traditional clans, and raised their children to obey the power of the dark side. They began to raid other clans, killing or capturing witches to make the fledgling Nightsisters all the more powerful, which was aided by the indecision of those very same clans and how to deal with them. For something that is forbidden makes it a far more powerful lure to draw others into the fold. Proclaiming herself Mother of the Nightsisters, Gethzerion provided her flock with an instructional treatise on the Nightsisters' new sinister spells and rituals in the form of the Book of Shadows. But like any dark side group, the idea of being under a singular leader was too stifling after a time. For a while, Gethzerion acted as a lightning rod, but soon ambitions grew too high, and the initial gathering of exiles split into multiple covens across the planet. These quickly started to compete for land, resources, food, male slaves, and magical supremacy. Amongst them, Talzin's own clan, and Zalem's as well. Now, Mother Talzin's clan had taken control of the Night Brothers to maintain their numbers, unlike the other clans who blended more and more with human DNA. But even as this was happening, Gethzerion would not find total control within her own coven. You see, she was actually challenged numerous times, specifically by one named Carissa, a young Nightsister with prodigious ability of animal friendship. This allowed one to control and influence animals to basically their will, and Carissa could utterly subjugate them, which made her proud and convinced of her own superiority, and as a result, foolishly attempted to take on Gethzerion for leadership. It ended very badly. But rather than kill her, the Night Mother did one thing worse. Carissa was banished, not only from the Nightsister covens, but from the entire planet itself.
I was cast down, stripped of my power, exiled.
Or you see, the various power plays and backstabbings that occurred on Dathomir had kept Gethzerion incredibly busy in maintaining control, with rivals such as Talzin, Zelam, and a whole host of others. This allowed the Galactic Republic and later the Galactic Empire to have bases on the planet without her even taking notice, considering them minor nuisances at worst, and an excellent source of slaves at best. Thus, it enabled the exiled Carissa with very little issue. A few years later, around 31 BBY, Grandmother Zalem had anointed herself Queen of Dathomir. She had always been an ambitious matriarch, but lacked the power to push for such a claim until a Jedi Knight had been captured on Dathomir. With his aid, she learned a higher mastery of the Force that went even beyond Gethzerion's abilities due to the formal training, and several clans were brought together under her rule. Yet she didn't even attempt to go against the original Nightsister, instead turning her focus on the use of the Infinity Gates to destroy Coruscant, a gamble that failed and broke her kingdom apart. Soon after, Talzin would gather the clans together in a unifying force. I would imagine this indicates that Gethzerion likely withdrew from public life to focus on her studies and growth and power, similar to what Palpatine did during his time ruling the Empire, letting the day-to-day minutiae being taken care of by the Imperial Ruling Council, Grand Admirals, Grand Moffs, and the like. And let's be entirely honest, Talzin actually did allow the Nightsisters to enter a prosperous age, but it was one of those very short-lived, as they were exterminated by General Grievous. Along with the death of almost every Dathomirian on the planet, including the Night Brothers, though they did manage to survive. In the aftermath, there was only Gethzerion, due to her lack of joining Talzin's little kingdom that enabled the restoration of the Nightsisters into a singular coven again, but this time far more dangerous than they have ever been before or since. As the Galactic Empire rose to power, a deal was struck which allowed the Empire to establish a new prison colony on the planet, with the Nightsisters acting as impromptu security officers. They would track down escapees and renegades that managed to slip through the Empire's web of security. But they didn't do this out of the kindness of their hearts. For the dark side must spread, and the desire for more continued to grow. And for Gethzerion's kingdom, Dathomir
is not enough.
Soon the Nightsisters began to corrupt the Imperial troops and progressively usurp control of the prison staff from the Imperial officers. Or you see, the Empire didn't know the truth about the Nightsisters or what they could even do. After all, they saw them as little more than a primitive backwater tribe that lived on a Force-forsaken planet for centuries. But soon, Nightsisters became a more regular occurrence. Imperial officers became more comfortable with their presence. Day by day, the Imperials became nothing but puppets on strings, with the Nightsisters attaching them more and more. Until finally, the Nightsisters took full control of the prison security forces before turning them towards their officers. A battle erupted throughout the prison between loyal Imperial forces and the Nightsisters along with their slaves. Eventually, the Nightsisters would taste defeat, but instead of death, they melted away into the forest after being repelled. Palpatine learned of this, and soon of Gethzerion, and he had a very familiar another tingle go down his spine he hadn't felt since facing Master Yoda. Fear. His mind would begin to go into a tailspin about the type of threat that she could pose to the Empire, to him. It was to the point where he ordered all ships on Dathomir to be destroyed, both those on the ground and in space, burning thousands, if not tens of thousands of Imperial lives just to ensure that they would not be compromised, or a fleet was sent to reinforce the quarantine on the planet to keep Gethzerion and her clans grounded. This was a prudent course. And not only that, he literally put in charge of this blockade one of the most insanely intelligent Imperials that has ever existed, Admiral Zinj. When I say this guy's intelligent, he's like only one step down from the Grand Admirals themselves, literally only getting defeated because, well, circumstances demanded that he die. For years, the Imperial forces continued to fight the Nightsisters, but let's be fair, victory was inevitable on the planet, and they enslaved the stranded Imperials. But due to Palpatine's orders, there was nothing left that could be cobbled together to create a ship to allow them to escape Dathomir. Though a few Nightsisters would escape through various means, including a criminal organization that literally just invaded the entire planet, none of those who escaped ever returned for their sisters. For Gethzerion's rule was never about bonding or camaraderie, but instead it was just an iron fist. And if anyone knows about Gethzerion, you know how ironic that is. But the time would soon come when the Emperor fell. When the second Death Star was signaled to the galaxy that the Galactic Empire's reign was effectively over. It certainly did for many Imperials, who took up the chance to become warlords driven by their own ambitions. Amongst them was the Imperial officer assigned to keep watch over Dathomir, being one of the first warlords. For 4 years, he maintained the blockade and had no reason to treat with the Nightsisters. That wasn't until the Millennium Falcon crashed on Dathomir containing Han Solo and Leia Organa, the former desperate to keep Leia from marrying Prince Isolde of the Caves Consortium. Han had been in command of the Solo fleet, a task force that had been a massive thorn in Zinj's side for nearly a year at that point. And let me be entirely clear, this guy is definitely not one to let revenge slip from his grasp. But you see, Han and Leia, they were under the protective care of the Singing Mountain clan, the only clan of witches with the power to stand up to the Nightsisters. So a deal was struck between Zinj and Gethzerion. In exchange for Han Solo's capture, the Nightsisters would be given passage off of Dathomir. Otherwise, Zinj would use the Orbital Nightcloak, a super weapon that would raise the global temperatures across Dathomir to create a new ice age and kill them all. Gethzerion agreed and began the assault on the Singing Mountain clan. At the same time, Luke Skywalker arrived on Dathomir to find Han and his sister after hearing rumors about what happened, eventually even stumbling across the Jedi training vessel Chunthor. Hearing about the battle against the Singing Mountain clan, Luke joined the fight to aid them. Amongst the combat, he would eventually encounter Gethzerion herself, and she gave him one look over, saw that he was actually powerful in the Force, and was like, nope, and then shot a single burst of Force lightning at him, so strong that she nearly made Luke as roasted as the Stormtrooper's ear. Yeah, she literally one-shot Luke Skywalker 4 years after his encounter with Palpatine. Now, let's be entirely honest, he may have been able to heal himself within a few hours after that, but we must take into consideration that Luke, at this time, had grown considerably more powerful in the last 4 years than he was on the Death Star. His growth never stopped, and he was far more powerful than Vader by the time this happened. The fact that she managed to nearly kill him outright, without even trying, goes to show that she is not a force to be messed with. And to be honest, Zinj had it the right way. You see, unlike Palpatine and their Sabroth, Gethzerion was not killed in a direct confrontation. You see, she was way too powerful for that. Instead, when she and the other important witches of her coven rose from the planet in their space carrier after managing to get to one, finally free of their world, Zinj double-crossed her. He decided that the galaxy was crazy enough without Gethzerion's nonsense spreading across the stars, and had 2 Imperial-class Star Destroyers blow them away. And let's be entirely honest, that's a lot of firepower. Though perhaps if Zinj actually knew what happens when you break a deal, he would have thought differently.
His fate will be the same as ours.
Because minutes later, Han told Zinj to kiss his Wookiee for shoving a pair of concussion missiles into the bridge, and with Zinj's last words being Mama, he was vaporized. It kind of makes me wonder if Gethzerion put a curse on Zinj before she died, after all.
He should be more careful than making deals with witches.